Thank you, Shauna.
You. So our illustrious chair is unable to join us today, so he has alerted me to that. So I'm going to chair the meeting instead. So with that, I welcome you to the March meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee for the Sonoma County Transportation Authority. We'll start with introductions, but I think everybody knows everybody. Well, no, let's go ahead and do introductions. There's a few newbies here. So I will go through the attendees list real quick. Let's see if I can see that. I myself am Shauna Gause with Programming and Projects with SCTA. I'm joined by Drew Nichols and Tanya Narath and Dana Teray, David Ripperda, and James Cameron, all of SCTA RCPA. We also have Ben Kagiyama with Healdsburg, and Craig Scott with City of Cotati, Elizabeth Tyree with Sonoma County Parks, Edie Takata with Rohnert Park, Hunter McLaughlin with the county, Ken Eichstadt with the City of Petaluma, Lucas Russell. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with RRWA. Can you introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lucas Russell. I'm just filling in for Vanessa Apodaca on behalf of the City of Cloverdale today.
Lovely, thank you so much. Mona Ibrahim with the Town of Windsor, Nancy Adams, City of Santa Rosa, Oriana Hart with the City of Sonoma, Orlando Ramirez with Caltrans District 4, Tony Bertolero with the City of Sebastopol. Did I miss anyone? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on. That takes us to number 2, which is public comment. That's the time when we take any kind of comment on issues that are not on the agenda today. Any hands raised? I don't hear anyone piping up, so we'll go ahead and move on. That takes us to the approval of the minutes from the February 24th meeting. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes.
There's a motion. Can I get a second?
Cotati, second.
Nancy. Oh, go ahead, Craig. You're on.
Okay. Is there any comment or questions about items on the agenda or on the minutes? Hearing none, seeing none, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the February meeting, raise your hand. All right. Any opposed? None. That motion passes. Thank you very much. So that moves us on to number 4, which is the SB 743 update. Unfortunately, Chris Barney is unable to join us today, but he did ask me to share with you that Farron Piers is working on developing the draft calculator based on the feedback from the steering committee, and they are planning to release the draft of the tool for review in May. They're also scheduling the final release and training session with Farron Piers for July and August. So we can look forward to that tool coming online soon. That's exciting. That takes us to number 5, which is the fiscal year 22-23 local contributions to SCTA. And James Cameron is going to handle this one.
Thanks, Shauna. Sorry, I don't have a camera that works. The next item just talks about our annual contributions for SCTA and RCPA. As most of you are familiar, those contributions for RCPA are issued after the preliminary budget is approved in May by the SCTA RCPA board, and then the SCTA contribution invoices go out after the final budget is approved in October by the SCTA RCPA board. With that, this is for your budgeting purposes to account for a CPI increase that mirrors CPI from December through December of 4.24%. Some of you had reached out to me in advance, and I just quoted you a conservative 5% over last year, but we're going to just follow what CPI is in our recommendation. This will be an item before our board in May for approval. And I would, before I turn it over back to Shauna, I will just say that there's at least a couple jurisdictions that we're still waiting for your October invoices from last year to be paid. So you've been noticed, and please respond to those requests. With that, that concludes my report of this information item on an action that will be going to the RCPA SCTA board in May.
Thank you, James. I see Nancy has her hand raised.
Thank you, Shauna. Thanks, James. So I have a question, and then I can respond to your last remarks, James. So remind me on the RCPA contribution, there's a footnote at that on that table that says $5,000 per jurisdiction with the remainder based on population. Is that something that was written when this thing was originally structured? I just don't remember seeing that, and and maybe James, it's not you to answer that. Maybe it's Tanya, but so that's a question. And then as far as the invoices, so I replied back. So invoices for Santa Rosa, they should be directed to me. The one that in October went to Jason, and he doesn't pay these invoices, and so it sort of got cross-wired with the city. So if you could just have your admin people send it to me, that it'll find its way to our admin person to process it. So sorry about the delay, but that was a hiccup.
Yep, and we received your payment already, Nancy. So thank you for that. And with regard to your other question, both the SCTA contributions and the RCPA contributions are using the same methodology as we have historically. So there's not a change there. That $5,000 was to what has always been in place.
Okay, thanks, James.
Are there any other questions regarding James's informational item on the, is it information or action? You said it was information, right?
Correct.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, so I think that's it. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5, which is the Measure M discussion items. The first on the list is the invoicing and obligation status, which is included in your agenda packet. As you know, we try to mark all of those projects on the list that are approaching their 6-month deadline with yellow to alert you to when that is about to be read. And then those that are 6 months out or more from the time that they last had action, either an appropriation or an invoice, then they turn red. And as you know, the policy for Measure M in the strategic plan states that you have 6 months to invoice against active appropriations so that we can keep these things moving along. If you need an extension, you are within your rights to request an extension, and we are happy to grant that if that's necessary. None of the projects that are shown on the list have extensions. Several that are up against their deadline. So get those invoices in. That I will move on to the maintenance of effort item. So you may recall that we brought to you a couple of months ago the reporting, actually I think it was last month, the reporting on the Measure M maintenance of effort requirement and the status of everybody's reporting. We did do some back and forth with some of the jurisdictions, and now we have full final reporting from each of the jurisdictions. That reporting is due by February 15th. We did have some back and forth, which is why we're addressing the final comments and final reporting in March. So we are working with a new policy. You'll recall that in the last year, we had compliance with both policies. We updated the Measure M policy 14.14 about maintenance of effort. We had originally started using a average based on your discretionary funds. And that was based on a baseline of fiscal year 11-12. And then we averaged it out. And we stopped using that policy last year. Last year was the last time that we reported against that policy. And this year, although we have been collecting the data for it to establish the baseline, now we have a 3-year rolling average, and there is the new policy. And so this is the first year that we are reporting out solely with the new policy. So we had all jurisdictions reporting on time. All 10 jurisdictions were reporting on time for their local streets and roads funding maintenance of effort requirement. We did find that 3 of the jurisdictions are out of compliance with the 3-year rolling average for maintenance of effort. So the policy states that we should, that the consequences for not meeting the requirement is that non-compliant jurisdictions will have their apportionment reduced by the percentage below their baseline, and those funds will then be reapportioned to all the compliant jurisdictions, and the non-compliant jurisdictions will not get them back. And so we are making the recommendation, staff is making the recommendation to apply those consequences to the 3 jurisdictions that are out of compliance. We did, however, receive a letter from the county requesting that we consider a waiver for this fiscal year in order to accommodate the impacts from COVID-19 lockdown, and especially last year during the time when everybody was unable to work, when COVID was really sort of through, and as more and more people were infected, or new people that were infected, and the lockdown, you know, it was earlier on where everyone was being conservative, and if you knew somebody who had been infected, then you couldn't go to work. And so the workforce that does the maintenance of the roads for the county was impacted by that policy, and so they were actually unable to complete their maintenance work because of these COVID requirements. So they're asking that we consider a waiver. So the staff recommendation right now is to implement the consequences as the policy is stated, but I would entertain a discussion about whether or not we should consider another option. And everybody should have received that letter from the county earlier today from Drew. And with that point, I would turn it over to anyone who would like to lead off a discussion. Nancy, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
So I'm just fact finding now, or kind of having some questions. So was the county part of the? I know the city had to go through some follow-up conversations with SCTA to relook at our initial submittal there in March or in February. So question was the county also involved in follow-up conversations? And then I guess I'll just ask that question and see where that one
answer is yes.
Forth.
Yes, we had follow-up conversations with the county. We had follow-up conversations with everybody there were 5 jurisdictions initially that were reporting out of compliance with the preliminary reporting. So we went, as you recall, we brought that information to the TAC last month, and several of the jurisdictions went back and re-examined what they were reporting and revised their reporting. So that has been addressed in their final reporting statement, and that information is contained in your agenda packet. But the county did not change any of their reporting. They did not change any of their exceptions. So they are approximately 2% below what their 3-year rolling average is for maintenance of effort.
Oh, okay, so thanks for that, and I'll just listen to some of the other members. I just wanted to get that question sorted out in my mind. So I'll be on standby until I hear others speak.
Well, I'll jump in, being one of the jurisdictions that's out of compliance, and I'm super new, so speaking probably way out of turn, but COVID certainly had a huge impact here in the city of Sonoma as well. Our maintenance staff is all of 10 people. So when one of them was impacted, we had stretches where we just didn't have any staff. So that is a huge part of why we're out of compliance. And I'm sure that the county can speak more to their staff, but we would love the consideration of a waiver.
Okay, Oriana, can you speak a little bit more to that? I know that the county uses their LSR funds directly into their maintenance staff salaries. That's how they spend their money. But from what I've seen of the city's reporting, usually it's put into specific projects for the city of Sonoma. And if you guys are also using it on maintenance staff, then that's something that we could consider. But right now that we don't have anything official from the city saying that, we only have the one letter from the county.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, yeah, I can figure out how to best communicate that to you. Yeah, but we do both. And so we had impact like budgetarily from our larger projects, like we didn't do our general fund CIP projects, basically just around the budget restrictions from CIP. But in terms of our maintenance staff, that money was definitely impacted from COVID. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but.
Okay, does anybody else want to contribute to this discussion?
Could you remind us what the penalties are?
Sure. So the penalty is to have your apportionment reduced by the percentage below their baseline. And those funds will then be reapportioned to the compliant jurisdictions. So the proposal is to reduce the 22-23 LSR apportionment from, those would be the quarterly payments you get for LSR, you being the collective you, not Katati, but by reducing by that percentage. And I believe it is just 1% and 2% for all of the jurisdictions. Yeah, the 3 jurisdictions, it's 2% for the county, 1% for Cloverdale, and 1% for the city of Sonoma. So their apportionment would be reduced by 1%, and for the county 2%, and then that portion that was withheld would be redistributed to the rest of the jurisdictions and dispersed until such time as the jurisdictions were able to bring themselves back into compliance. I am not sure how we are looking to establish that compliance, since it will take a year in order to determine whether or not your expenditures have been brought back in line. So I would expect that to be for that fiscal year, and then we would reassess for the next reporting cycle. So for reference's sake, if we were to use the last year's reporting, 2% of the county's share is approximately $144,000. 1% of Cloverdale's share is $1,200, and 1% of Sonoma's share is $4,900. All of that information is in the spreadsheets that are in your agenda packet, by the way.
Okay. So Sean, this is Nancy. That was the clarification I was looking for. So is that the delta? So or is it 2% of their actual LSR amount?
It would be the actual. It would be the actual. I'm giving you an estimate based on what they're That gives you an idea of how much it will be, given what their 3-year rolling average is and what we're expecting their disbursements to be.
Okay, so it would be good. I mean, I'd feel good if I kind of knew what that number is, right? For each of those jurisdictions. Right now, it's an estimate, but And like I said, if it's 2% of their, like Santa Rosa gets like 1.5 million, right? For our estimate for local streets and roads. So is that 2%? Would that be 2% of that 1.5?
Yes.
Which, so I think that county number is going to be probably a little bit higher than that, but I don't know. So, so you get my point.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Edie, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Was the escalator applied this year and for this, and it would apply for this penalty also?
The penalty will apply for 22-23, not for 21-22.
Okay, and the escalator applies to 22-23.
I mean, it would.
So it'll be a greater amount.
Yeah, let me be slightly clearer if I can. So the reporting will be for, when we get to it, will be for the year 21-22.
Yes.
But the disbursements that would be impacted would be for the year 22-23.
Which include that escalator. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Would anyone else like to contribute to this discussion? Or I would entertain a motion about the recommendation. Craig, go ahead.
I just have a comment. These are all very small deviations, the 1% and 2%. In the base, how that baseline was calculated, there's a little subjectivity to that. And I think the intent, you can certainly see the intent was made. I mean, they're 99, 98% within compliance. I'm leaning towards just allowing the waivers for all three.
Well, technically, we've only received a request for waiver from the county at this time. And I have to take this item before the Citizens Advisory Committee on Monday. So we will be receiving a recommendation from the Citizens Advisory Committee, and we will take the tax recommendation to the Citizens Advisory Committee when we give the report.
So we technically can't, there's no waivers to be deciding on for the other two.
If the TAC wants to make a recommendation to waive everybody's requirement for, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up right now, but if somebody on the TAC wants to make a recommendation other than what is the recommendation in the staff report, then I'm willing to entertain it and have it and host a discussion. But right now, this is the way it stands. And the policy is pretty clear that we are moving away. In the past, the policy, we allowed for deviations between jurisdictions when the overall average was still making the requirement, the maintenance of effort percentage requirement. But this new policy put everybody on an individual basis. And so it's very clear that it is based on individual jurisdictions compliance. So I don't think that we can look at it on an average and say, well, almost everybody made it, so we should just call it good. I think the policy is pretty clear, which is why my recommendation is to implement the consequences. But if we want to have a further discussion about it, I'm happy to entertain it. I see your hand is raised again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out here on a limb. I'm probably not gonna be the favorite child here, but I think Santa Rosa was willing to take that hit if it turned out that way. But working with our finance people, we were able to sort through some details and we got back into compliance. So, Shauna has made a really good point. We had a huge detailed conversation around this. And you're right, we did look at the option with the old policy where on average, if we were compliant as a county, then we were all good. But now with this new policy, that's not the way we're approaching this. So, I don't really think, if I looked at the amount that these folks are going to take a hit on, I think those numbers are probably a little conservative. I think they're a little bit larger than what they're going to be taking a hit for. And that was my question on, it would be nice to know really what their penalty would be. So, I'm gonna put the staff recommendation out there for discussion and see what kind of reaction I get. But I feel like, we have, we made a conscious effort to set up rules for this, and I don't want to get into a precedent setting discussion. And I do understand, with the pandemic, there was a bit of a hitch, but yeah, so I'll stop there and have others weigh in.
I see Edie's got her hand raised also. Go ahead, Edie.
Yeah, we were one of the jurisdictions, and we were going to take a large hit percentage-wise, over 10%. May have been, depending on which how we calculated, was between 12 and 17%. So like Santa Rosa, we did sharpen our pencils and worked really hard with our finance department to find what we needed to find to correct our numbers. But that's just a comment in our experience. But just so that I'm clear, is there is a waiver in the policy?
There is not a waiver in the policy. There has been a request for a waiver from the County of Sonoma.
Okay, so it's not, just because it's not in here, that doesn't preclude an effort to request a waiver. All right, that's helpful for me and instructive for Go Sonoma. Should we be crafting a maintenance of effort policy, that all these things that we're going to encounter the next 3 or 4 years, as we finish out Measure M, how this can play out? Because I'm assuming that Go Sonoma will have something similar, and it'll probably be built on this. And I'm also assuming that our baselines that we're creating now are going to be probably the baselines for that Go Sonoma. But that's the future, and just the limit of my comments.
So Nancy, just to answer your question, based on the estimates that are provided for the 2022 fiscal year, I've only done Cloverdale, but it looks like it would be about $1,030 for the city of Cloverdale's LSR disbursement would be the impact. So, I mean, those are found, the estimates that we have for the 22-23 fiscal year are online. You guys have all received those. You can do your own math, but it's, it's pretty close.
Yeah, the county, what do they get, around 2.5 million or something like that? Because if you take 1% of that.
Yeah, their estimate for next year is 2.7 million.
Okay. So that 2% of that, right? Oh, geez. Right. I'm just doing a quick math here. Oh, Lordy. Don't rely on me for quick math when I'm in a group situation. So it's like 54,000 if it's 2%. So that they're I'm doing the math right. And
that's what I got as well, 54,000.
Yeah. So so I don't know what Sonoma is, but they're probably a little bit under 5. You got 49,000. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I'm not going to fuss about it over that much money for the city of Sonoma. You're right. We didn't make it.
Okay, so I heard somebody move I think it was Nancy, move the staff recommendation, and there has been additional discussion. Is there a second for that motion?
So moved.
Second from Rohnert Park. Is there any further discussion to be had? I would call the vote. Let's do it by jurisdiction. Drew, can you do that for me? Are you prepared for that?
I am. So we'll start with the city of Cloverdale.
Can I abstain from this? Sorry, I was brought in very last minute. I don't feel like I'm qualified to
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
offer input.
City of Cotati.
No,
County of Sonoma DHS is absent here. County of Sonoma Regional Parks.
No,
County of Sonoma Transportation and Public Works.
No.
City of Healdsburg.
Aye.
City of Petaluma.
Aye.
City of Rohnert Park.
Aye.
City of Santa Rosa.
yes,
City of Sebastopol.
No.
City of Sonoma.
No.
And Town of Windsor.
Yes.
Aye. Well, that means the motion does not pass. So I don't know if you want to table it or if someone else wants to offer something else. I did not hear another motion, but I am looking for a recommendation from this body to the Citizens Advisory Committee and the board. So if someone else would like to propose a motion.
John, I have a question. Point of order. Does the county get 2 votes for this? Regional
No, they
Parks
do not.
and TPW?
Oh, so I see what you're saying. DHS and Hunter, Elizabeth and Hunter both voted, and I believe that it is just one. You are correct.
Oh, that would mean it would pass.
That would mean that it does pass 4-5 with 1 abstention. Is there any further discussion that anyone would like to offer? Otherwise, we are going to count that as a recommendation from the TAC, but I will represent that it was a divided decision to the Citizens Advisory Committee, and the Citizens Advisory Committee will also receive the letter that you all received this morning from the county requesting a waiver. Tony, your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of comment on my no vote. I just think that, I would have preferred to consider and approve Sonoma County's request for a waiver because they did have a pretty legitimate reason. They do a lot of their own work and that's difficult to do. And I know that a lot of cities were struggling with their public works departments from last year. And so maybe because they're doing a lot of their own work, they couldn't really work through their finance department to say, well, how did we consider the maintenance of effort? And there was no really opportunity to kind of modify their numbers, if you will, because they're pretty limited because it has to do with personnel. So anyway, so that was really my reason for it. It was obviously the pandemic is not a routine type of situation. It's something that's very unique. I mean, how often does that happen? And so I thought, given the circumstances, I thought it was reasonable to be kind of sympathetic to their cause and vote no on the motion.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
So it's, even when it goes to, the staff recommendation goes to the CAC, then the board gets to deliberate and vote on this too. So there's going to be further discussion and explanation that could be had to the board members.
That's correct. Right. Well, thank you all for a robust discussion, and I will do my best to represent your interests at the Citizens Advisory Committee. Please feel free to attend yourselves if you would like to represent your viewpoints as we discuss that item on Monday. The regular meeting is scheduled for 4:00 p.m. and the item will occur after the project presentations. That I am going to move on to the Petaluma request for an amendment to Measure M programming. So, sorry, I have to scroll. Nice. So the next item before you is a request that the SCTA received from the city of Petaluma for an out-of-cycle programming to the bicycle and pedestrian project in Measure M known as Access Across 101. So in Measure M, there are, as you know, there are projects that are identified. Those are the only projects that get funded through Measure M, right, in the project-specific programs. And Access Across 101 is a project that originally was intended for feasibility studies, and it was a little bit more amorphous. Sometime about halfway through the measure, we decided that we should limit it to 4 jurisdictions so that we could make it that, because the original measure identified $1 million for this project. So we limited it to 4 jurisdictions up to $250,000 per jurisdiction on a first come, first served basis to do feasibility studies for bicycle and pedestrian access across Highway 101. The city of Petaluma was not prepared at the time of the last request for projects programming when we did the strategic plan programming last year. So we have since received a request from them. They would like to have us, the SCTA, the board, consider programming $200,000 to the Access Across 101 project for a feasibility study. So it would not use the entire amount of Measure M available, but given that Measure M is going to come short of what the original estimate was, that's not a problem. So the staff recommendation is for the TAC to consider recommending programming this out of cycle to the city of Petaluma in the amount of $200,000. There is in fact capacity in the program, and it will not impact any of the other programs or that program at first. I would open it up to discussion. Ken, I see your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for the description of the project. This is something that, you know, I've coming into the traffic engineering realm, taking over from Jeff Stutzman. I wasn't on top of this to begin with, had a few other irons in the fire, but this is something that's really important. The city has put it into the CIP, and we really need to steady, you know, the better access that we can achieve across 101, because 101 is just it's a big barrier between East and West Petaluma, and we're trying to achieve better connectivity. So the 2020 death of a cyclist on the Corona Road Bridge was very instrumental, but there's no shortage of reasons in addition to that to really see this move forward. And the McKinsey crossing that would also be studied just south of the Washington Street Bridge, that is, you know, non-compliant in a number of ways. And early on, you know, when I started working with the city, I got complaints on the access on the east side. The other thing that I would like to request to Shauna, you and James, is if there was any opportunity. I just put 200,000 in there. I felt like that was a reasonable amount, but if there was an opportunity to increase that, I would like to find out how the ability to do that. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ken. We can address that offline. That's not a problem, but if you would like to have me change the recommendation to 250K for consideration, then consider it done. Nancy,
Thank you.
you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I think this is exciting. We all know how 101 is such a barrier for bike and peds. So I think the opportunities that we can put into the county for that active modes to cross that barrier, I think the better we'll be as a county. So I think this is a great ask, and I would support it. I am very intrigued by your project schedule, though, Ken. This means that you would almost be close to finishing the bridge the same time the city is, and it takes a long while. So I hope your schedule is on point. But it's taken us a good number of years to get there. So kudos to you if you can pull it off and get it done close to ours. Yep.
Is there anybody else who'd like to offer comment and or ask questions regarding this request? Seeing none, the recommendation is for the TAC to consider recommending approval of this out of cycle programming to the board. And I would entertain a motion.
I would make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'd second it.
Thank you, Mona. And Drew, I would again call the vote, please, and we'll just do one per jurisdiction, please.
Sounds good. City of Cloverdale.
Abstain again.
City of Cotati.
Yes.
County of Sonoma. I'm not sure. I presume TPW is the one.
Yeah, aye. Yes.
See, City of Healdsburg.
Aye.
City of Petaluma.
I guess I can vote on my project. So yes, please. Thank you.
City of Rohnert Park.
Yes.
City of Santa Rosa.
Yes.
City of Sebastopol.
Yes.
City of Sonoma. Must have stepped away. And Town of Windsor.
Oh, yes.
So I hear that as passing.
Great. Thank you, Drew. All right, thank you all, and we will move on to the regional information update. Included in your agenda packet is the inactive obligation status list that we bring to you every month. There are 3 jurisdictions that are on the list. I did receive a printed explanation of all of the projects on the list for the County of Sonoma. And Nader provided that to me, but was unable to attend today. And so I would just ask that the 2 other jurisdictions that are on the list consider telling us what's going on with the projects. And if there's anything else we can address. So the 2 projects on the list are Rohnert Park and the City of Sonoma. So Rohnert Park, State Farm Drive, and we did talk about this last month, but I didn't get your justification written down, Edie, so I apologize for that. But if you could walk me through that one more time. I've started including what the status is on the list for those projects that continue on the list from the previous month.
Right. Same story. We're seeking a revision of our E76 to push the CE to construction, which requires FHWA. So we have we have paperwork ready, and we just need to get it through to FHWA and come back down. And we have a final package ready to go when that thing is done.
Great, thank you. And then Oriana, have you joined us again? Yeah. Can you give
Is
us a
this
status update?
Chase Bridge still? Is that
Yes, it is. Chase Street
Yeah.
Bridge.
So we've built out all of the available funding and we're waiting for construction money, hopefully this summer.
I'm sorry, can you, more words?
Probably, but I don't know the right ones, but we've used all of the like engineering and design fund money and they haven't given us a go ahead for money or an allocation.
Oh,
for
this is a bridge.
construction.
This is a, oh, right.
Yeah.
This is a bridge program project,
Yes.
not a, got
So
it.
Ken said that we were probably in next year's fiscal budget and maybe this summer.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, that concludes that item. So we'll move on to 7.2, which is the One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3 update. So I'm going to get out of this real quick and then share my screen with you all for a second. Because, let's see, let's pull that up. Screen. Is what I want, but I'm not on the right page. So I'm going to go back. Here we go. Okay, so I'm sharing this with you just so that you are all aware that we have updated our SCTA webpage. And so if you go back to the home page, you can see that we have a number of buttons for topics that are right on the top of everybody's mind. And at the bottom of the list is the 2021 funding program. So included on this page is the information that was included in the call for projects for the 2021 funding program. And it also includes our schedule for implementation, which, as you know, the 2021 funding program includes OBAG 3. So what we know about what the deadlines are right now are all included in this schedule that you find on our website. So we are still expecting, right now, the latest thing that we're waiting for is MTC has said that they are going to provide a template for OBAG 3 applications. And we had our own application for the 2021 funding program. So right now we are waiting to see that template from MTC to see if there's anything different from what we had on our applications. If so, then we will probably seek additional information from some of the jurisdictions that supplied applications to us that we think might be good program candidates for OBAG 3, and then we will start our evaluations. All of that's going to happen together, and we expect that we're going to see that application. It's supposed to be by the end of this week, and tomorrow is the Bay Area County Transportation Authority group meeting, where I'm expecting Mallory Atkinson to report out to the BACTA executive directors, and we'll find out when the ETA is for that application. She said 2 weeks ago that it would be in the next 2 weeks. So I'm expecting that it will debut itself anytime now. Then we will start moving forward with evaluations and seeking further information if necessary. We are looking to take our recommendations to the board in July. So it's all going to come together very quickly. Also wanted to draw your attention to the fact that here on the website is a link to all of the applications that we received. So you can see that this should look familiar to you. This is the spreadsheet that we used in laying out. This is what we ended up taking to the board when we talked about all of the projects that we received for the 2021 funding program. And in this spreadsheet, there's one page per jurisdiction and or agency. I believe there's a page for the transit agencies in addition to the public works departments of each of the cities. But you can see here that under the project ID, and I'm going to make this bigger because I understand that it is not very big. And we've listed your projects the way that they were submitted to us. So if you gave us a priority list, then that's how we listed them. You know, so that's what the priority means. This project ID is a unique number. So it has the 2021 program. Each jurisdiction has a number. Cloverdale's number is 1. This is the first priority project, and this is the phase. There's only one phase of this project. But if you click on this, this is a link that will take you directly to the application that was submitted. So you can look at anybody's application, all of the information, so that everybody's being compared apples to apples. This is what there's a link to each one of the applications that was submitted to us. You guys to see what that looks like. There's other resources in case you wanted to look at anything. The maps for equity priority communities and links to both the RTP and the CTP. Nancy's hand is raised. That pretty much concludes my OBAG update. So go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm actually Googling it. So this is really great information on your website. So I'm actually there now. So, oh, so I know I thought I lost my question, but have you seen a draft of the template, Shauna, from MTC or not? I just wondered, just curious.
Still
okay,
waiting.
all right. Yep, fair enough.
Okay, does anybody else have questions about what I reported on OBAG 3 or the 2021 funding program? I will just remind you that it's on our website, should be easy to find, hopefully. So with that, I'm going to move us on to the next agenda item, which is Infrastructure Improvement and Job Act Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Fact Sheet. David, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Shauna. So as you can see in your packet, there's a fact sheet that the White House prepared on all the new funding programs that are part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And of these programs, some of them are transportation programs, other ones are more towards environmental and energy programs. So I wanted to focus on the transportation programs that are out right now. So currently there are 3 funding opportunities that are having calls for projects. The first one is the RAISE grant program that we are aware the City of Santa Rosa and SMART are submitting applications for that program. Those applications are due on April 14th, and there was a recent increase in the amount of funding available due to the passage of the Federal Consolidated Appropriations Act. So there's now a total of $2.275 billion available for that NOFO. And the next program, NOFO is actually released for it this week. It's being called the, it's a new name for it, but they're calling it the National Infrastructure Project Assistance Program. And it's also combining that with the Infrastructure for Building America program and the Rural Service Transportation Grant Program. And they're incorporating them all into what they're calling a multimodal project discretionary grant program. And so there's a large amount of funding available because they're combining all 3 of those programs together into $2.9 billion of funding. So this is something unique for USDOT where they're combining multiple competitive discretionary grant programs and allowing sponsors to apply for one or all of the programs depending on their eligibility. So it's an interesting program, and the funding for that is coming up, and applications are due on May 23rd. The last one's on the transit side. They're combining a NOFO for the low and no emissions and the bus and bus facilities grant program, and those applications are due on May 31st. There's approximately $1.1 billion available under the low and no emission grant program and $372 million under the bus and bus facilities competitive grant program. So if anyone has any questions about any of the other programs, they're described in the fact sheets, we're happy to answer. And if we don't know the answer, we can reach out to Caltrans and FHWA if you want more information. But This is just for our information. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you, David. We'll go ahead and move on to number 8 on our agenda, which is the SCTA Programming and Projects Activities Report to the board. James?
Yeah, thank you, Shauna. So I didn't see a link in the packet, but I did see the agenda item there. I just dropped a link in the chat that'll take you to our board packet. Then you can jump down to item 5.4.4 from the agenda, or just, you know, quickly scroll the page, what is it, 147 in the packet. This is just really an informational item, trying to report out on what Shauna, David, and I are busily working on, trying to keep you informed and keep our board informed of projects and programming activities. The first time we, sent this out last month, you'll remind you that, there's just the red text is what changes month to month. So you can, see what the changes are. David covered some of the stuff from the IIJA. Shauna already covered the OBAG schedule update. And then in addition to that, you'll see there are some updates with regard to the local road safety program, local road safety plans, which jurisdictions have done them, which are in process, and which jurisdictions have not yet initiated that project for potential HSIP applications in the future. You'll also see some advocacy on the SCTA side for Caltrans SHOP funding for a list of 9 different projects that vary along the highways, Highway 12, Highway 121, Highway 116, making requests of Caltrans to fund those projects in the future cycles of the SHOP. With that, this is just a recurring information only item, and we'll keep bringing it to you and pointing out the aspects that we think are interested to, the TAC would be interested in. So that's it. Thank you.
James? Any questions for James? Seeing any, we'll move on to number 9, which is the SCTA RCPA board meeting agenda. And Drew is going to share that with you briefly. It is, in fact, a fairly abbreviated agenda. And so there's not a lot on it. And I would be happy to entertain any questions that you might have regarding what is included right now.
Can Drew make it a little bigger, Shauna?
Drew, can you make that a little bigger for me?
You're learning to use screens.
We lost it. It's there, right now. There's not a lot on the agenda. The coordinated claim, I believe, is on there, and a planning item. But right now, it's supposed to be pretty abbreviated. And then I believe there's a RCPA item on the climate mobilization strategy that is going to occur after the regular board meeting. So,
Is that clearer?
yes, it is. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, that's a pretty light lift.
It is, but because we're having this other discussion, we felt that it was warranted. And May is going to be pretty bulky.
And
John,
Shauna,
just a
if I could
question.
just, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Shauna, I was just going to share a little bit more, and we'll be getting more information out about this soon, but we are planning a public workshop on the mobilization strategy and kind of a call to action to the community. And that's going to be starting at 5:30 on the 11th, April 11th. So that's the workshop that Shauna's referring to. And we'll get more information out soon on that. So.
Thank you. A question, Nancy?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, then, if there are no other questions about the board agenda, then that takes us to number 10, which is other business comments and announcements. where I would like to address just really briefly that the Division of Local Assistance had a training day just the other day, just Wednesday, I believe. And it was a lot of information. I would say that I had 2 takeaways that I felt were worth repeating to this group. One of which was, when you have both federal and state funding on your job and you require a CTC allocation has to happen before you can get authorization to proceed from the feds. And I know that Mona is intimately familiar with this because it happened on the Windsor River Road project, where Caltrans did not process or forward the request for authorization to headquarters until after the CTC had done their allocation, had approved the allocation for the project. But I think it was slightly delayed. It wasn't just that it was in the queue ready to go, but that it didn't start moving. That federal request for authorization didn't start even moving with Ken until after the CTC allocation had happened. They're supposed to do it concurrently, but it doesn't always work that way. So just be aware that if you have to have both types of money and you require a CTC allocation, then you're going to need to have that happen before your FHWA authorization. And that can take up to, I mean, getting on a CTC or getting on the CTC agenda can take 2 months. You have to submit your request 2 months before the meeting that you want it to be approved at. So if you add another 2 months to that, it can take up to 4 months to get through that process. So if you have, say, STIP funding, you need to build that into your project delivery schedule. The other thing that I thought was really valuable that they mentioned was that when in doubt, choose lump sum over pro rata when you're asking for reimbursement. Particularly if you have projects that go over, like way over budget, you're going to end up getting less funding overall because you're only going to get a percentage of that project. So you're going to end up spending a lot more of your own money. So if you have the option, or if you have any doubt as to which one to choose, always choose lump sum. And I thought that was good advice from Caltrans. With that, I don't have any other announcements, but I would open it up to the group for anybody else who might have something to say. Nancy.
Yeah, I just some for us to think about. I know I've brought this up before about just, delivery and working with Caltrans, and it was odd. I was on a call the other day. It wasn't even, kind of transportation related, but somebody brought up, I think it was an MTC call. It was with the commissioners. It came up at MTC commission meeting yesterday, and one of the commissioners brought up the fact that how troublesome it is to work with Caltrans and their responsiveness. So I was wondering, and I'll bring this up again, as once we get our slate of OBAG 3 projects, kind of dialed in and we know what they are at the county level for all the jurisdictions, it might be kind of nice to have, invite Ken to the Zoom, to this meeting, to just kind of share the information with him so that he knows what's happening with our county for OBAG 3 projects. And begin an early conversation with him, kind of use a different approach, and maybe that will be helpful, down the road in delivering these, because, I'm just looking at other options, right, Shauna? Because we all struggle. And, and here a commissioner at MTC was calling Caltrans out for their non-responsiveness. And Rob just got the E76 for one of that H subhit project, and it'd been almost a year, right, working with Caltrans to get that. So I know that local assistance is kind of slammed, but I'm just looking at ways to try to engage them, and maybe we don't have so many issues with all of our delivery. So just a thought.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order? Then I would call this meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your time, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.